Now, that tension is just how to evaluate matter, Hule, and by extension, philosophical joke, by extension, how to evaluate.
Hmm. Pretty cool. I suppose. This is no overeating. That's what I was watching right before stream.
was watching this guy's videos. This is what we're eating. Oh, sorry, I was. Hi, all. It's been a few days. Hi. Hey, good to see y'all. Welcome to my stream. Sorry for making you wait. How long have you been? Like 5 minutes? Sorry about the 5-minute wait, y'all. Hey, everyone. I should probably turn chatty. There was still more I forgot. There, that looks better. Hi all, ready to read? I am. Dark rituals. I wouldn't call them dark rituals. Sure, let's go with that. Some of the dark. Hi, Sulking. I'm glad you think the art's cute. Thank you, Inkuna. Alright, without further ado, I shouldn't, have more delays, so... Barbarous book. That's what we're reading today. Skull. Keyboard, mouse, there we are. Sword World 2.0. It's actually older. Like, we've been in 2.5 since apparently 2018. But, I wonder if there's a way to make, your folders look like a medieval fantasy book. I want to, increase the fantasy in my desktop. If at all possible. Fantasy! I'm really in a fantasy mood right now. Raise the awareness. Yeah! I mean, recently I made a post about lollies on Twitter. Sword World 2.0 Barbarous book. Alright, when was this book released? I know 2.5 was released in 2018. Oh. Kei Kitazawa Group SNE. Also responsible, Group SNE is responsible for Record Lodos War as a replay. I believe. Maybe spreading this information, I hope not. Introduction. A lot of these are gonna be depressing. Barbers have done some bad things throughout history. Introduction. That's a really cool illustration by the way. Very cool. Hey Soul King, Barbarous, Kyle, Miji, anyone. Do you know how to take folders like this and make them look more like fantasy books? It looking like a fantasy book being opened would be cool. I chose this background because it looks like a fairyland. It fits me. This fits me so perfectly for all sorts of things. It's my homeland. It's my fairy homeland. It's beautiful. It could just change the icon. I just don't know what icon I should change folders to have a more medieval look or a more fantasy look.
You're not even
Ow!
being called a gamer.
What is this? What? Why am I unworthy of being called a gamer? Alright. That's a cool illustration by the way. Introduction. I could just stare at that for a while. That looks cool. But we should move on. To the world of Barbarous. You're not playing a game? Yes, I am. I'm playing a tabletop game. That's solely a game. Can you all hear the Dust Song music, by the way? How are the audio levels? Do you all hear me just fine? Do you hear the music just fine? How is everything? To the world of Barbarous. Humanoids and Barbarous have been enemies and been fighting each other since the dawn of time. Oh, well, that's cool. Sure. Sure thing. Appreciate that. Thanks, Barbarous. Gonna ignore you. I asked for help and you're giving it to me, so... Does this have to do with Unreal? Those look cool! Oh, it costs money though. Darn. Yeah, maybe later. When I have the money. Thanks though, appreciate it. I like that, that looks cool. Oh, fairies are looting. Yeah! Oops. Oh, didn't need to do that. So unprofessional so far! I wonder if I should just restart my stream. Hey, kitty! What is that? I feel like I've seen her before. Who is that? I feel like I've seen her. Looks familiar. Looks cringy. Yeah, a little bit. Oh, the graphics card? The 4090 graphics card? Mia, how are the audio levels? Hi, kitty! How are the audio levels? I'm doing pretty well. Oh, I need to do some level. Sounds great, wonderful. To the world of Barbarous before I do even more unprofessional stuff. To the squats. Ah! So much for getting to read. Why squats? Really? Ah, well, so much for reading. Oh, congratulations on the 4090. I wish I had one. I wonder if we should just end this stream and start it over. Alright, I'm gonna do the squats and end the stream and start it over. I've been pretty off topic for a while. So, I'm gonna do those 20 squats. 20 squats. 20 squats and we'll restart the stream. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, kitty, you're on the mark is for VOD purposes. Oh. It's for VOD purposes, yes. I want a clean VOD. That's focused on the reading. Alright, there's the 20 squats. I can treat this as like a preliminary and like put it on YouTube, but it would be nice, you know. Kitty understands what's going on. Also, it's not Dungeons and Dragons, but it's very similar. It's a Japanese tabletop game called Sword World. So the story behind Sword World is that there was a really, really popular replay. There is a really, really popular replay of Dungeons and Dragons in Japan called Record of Lodoss War, by far the most famous replay of Dungeons and Dragons, which was, I believe, the first tabletop game introduced to Japan in the 1980s, I think. Maybe it was sooner, but I think it was the 80s. So, in Japan, a lot of people like novelized their Dungeons and Dragons campaign and turned it into a story that could be read. You can think of something similar. This happens occasionally in the West. Well, not exactly the same thing. You can think of it almost like reading one of the Dragonlance novels. But apparently Group SNE, I think it was, ran into troubles, you know, trying to like serialize this replay because it was part of, before Wizards of the Coast, gosh, I used to remember who owned Dungeons and Dragons before Wizards of the Coast, not SNE. TNE? No. How am I forgetting? That was considered by most people the Golden Age before it was bought out by Wizards of the Coast. And people also sometimes prefer the Gary Gygax era. I think it was started off early, it was like Chainmail, and Dungeons and Dragons eventually. Eventually it was bought out by Wizards of the Coast. Anyway, due to copyright reasons, they tried to distance Record of Lodoss War from its origins in Dungeons and Dragons because they didn't want to get in trouble for copyright infringement. So they started working on their own tabletop game that would appeal to the Japanese market more, because it was hard in Japan for people to get their hands on like Western multi-sided dice, like all the little wild and unusual dice sides. About the only place you could do, like if you wanted to get that, would be to like go to Akihabara and import some from America. So a lot of people found it harder to get their hands on all these esoteric and, you know, unusual, cool as they are, but all these different types of different side dice were hard to come by in Japan. You could like go order some. And access to your chat, what was that? Why suddenly about... What's this suddenly about VR chat? But yeah, apparently they don't have anyone who wanted to manufacture, unusual sided dice in Japan. People who were dedicated Dungeons and Dragons players had to import their dice. The words. People had to import their dice from America or wherever. Probably America. To play Dungeons and Dragons. People do still play Dungeons and Dragons in Japan. Apparently 5th edition is pretty popular. Apparently 5th edition is pretty popular. Yeah. So people do, but it's harder to get into in Japan because if you want all of those different sided dice the Dungeons and Dragons uses, you have to import them. Usually there's a place that can import them in like Akiba or Akihabara. But for a lot of people that's less approachable. So they not only try to distance themselves from Dungeons and Dragons due to copyright reasons, you know, they would have to get permission from the company to be able to use the Dungeons and Dragons license, so they were trying to distance it from that. And in the process of doing so, Japan's biggest tabletop role-playing game was formed, which is, you know, similar to but distinctly different from Dungeons and Dragons, which was tailor-made for the Japanese market. You know, tropes and characters that would more fit in with Japanese sensibilities, the use of only 2 6-sided dice rather than all those unusual and, in my opinion, really fun. Those little esoteric, weird-looking dice are so cool. They look like little mystical crystals. I love those things. They're so cool. I even have some. They're like a sparkly blue. They're so sparkly. I love how sparkly they are. Ooh, sparkles. They like really sparkle. They're like these blue sparkly ones. I have some in the kitchen, ironically. They're in like a little, I'll have to like take a picture of it. I don't know how to describe it. Like a goblet? No, not a goblet. It almost looks like a potion bottle. It looks like one of those potion bottles from The Legend of Zelda. And so I put it in like the kitchen window as like a display, because I have like several bottles up there. And one of the bottles looks like a special fantasy potion bottle. I got like one that's basically a fantasy potion bottle. And I put my multi-sided Dungeons and Dragons dice in there. The ones that are all like blue and sparkly and shimmery. And it looks like I'm not gonna have to get them out to use them because, like, well, there's online tools like Tabletop Simulator, of course, but also this only uses 2 6-sided dice. But, basically, it's similar to Dungeons and Dragons as a way for Japan to have its own Dungeons and Dragons. Like, its own distinct thing. Where they didn't have to worry about, you know, getting permission from American copyright holders. And it has persevered as the most popular tabletop role-playing game in Japan. But that's not to say there's not any people who play other games. There's people who still swear by Dungeons and Dragons. I've heard 5th edition is pretty popular in Japan. There's also Call of Cthulhu. Apparently that's pretty popular. There's some Pathfinder players. And there's other Japanese tabletop role-playing games, quite a few of them, including one called Ryutama. There's a game called Ryutama. You know, this is another one. So, like, there's a variety. But among the most popular, as far as I'm aware, is by far, and to me, the most popular should be Sword World. But there's also a decent amount of popularity to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, Call of Cthulhu, And I think some of these other ones have a decent bit of popularity. But yeah. I don't know all the details. Right, I'm gonna end the stream so I can actually restart. I want to actually read this so it'll become a comprehensive like VOD I can have on YouTube, so someone will be like, oh, if I want to watch someone just read out the Barbarous book, they can come to watch that video. Y'all can do whatever you want. As VRChat, yes, I do really like VRChat. I need some blackout curtains for the house, and I need more outlets. So I need to get something like that. And then I'll do what I can, but... Alright, I'm gonna restart the stream in just a bit, just so that I can, like, at least attempt at making something decent for YouTube. My apologies. I know when people click on something like this for YouTube, they want to see, like... they want to see something that's, like, focused on the subject that it's about. like if someone wants to click on it who just wants to see Barbarous stuff. I failed to read the 2.5 rule book 1 in one stream, so I'm actually going to start over from the beginning next time. So I can read it all in one stream and put it on YouTube. But yeah, that's the problem. I don't want to have to spend a bunch of time video editing the VOD. So I'm just going to try to get it in one take. And hopefully it'll be something helpful for someone on YouTube who just wants to, like, I don't know, do the dishes and laundry and just put on a video where someone's reading the Barbarous book. Maybe. Alright, be right back. I'm doing my Barbarous book reading stream. Yeah.
You're not Barbara.